I want you to think about someone you know, someone who did everything right, someone who worked hard, they showed up, they followed the rules, they sacrificed, and yet at the end of the day, they're still stressed about money, still living paycheck to paycheck, still feeling like something never quite lands right. Like every time they get close, something just falls apart for them. So just picture that. Think about that for a second. Now I want you to think about someone else. And if I'm being honest, this one can feel a little bit icky. So just follow along, okay? Because this person, they're not smarter than you. They don't work harder than you. They don't even always make better decisions than you. But yet somehow it just seems like money just flows to them. That opportunities feel like they just show up for them. That things just seem to work out for them. And most people, maybe even you, will say something like, well, they're just super freaking lucky. But I need you to hear this. Luck is not a strategy. And I'm pretty dang sure that it's not the full story behind what's going on. Because the real difference isn't what they're doing. It's what their brain is doing, without them even realizing that their brain is doing it. It's just the brain is doing something. And before we go any further, I need to say something that might make the entire self-improvement industry a little uncomfortable for you, okay? Even though I am a firm believer in self-improvement, I'm on the journey, I want to improve myself, but most of what you've been taught about self-improvement, it's not wrong, but it is incomplete. Because when it comes to self-improvement, they'll tell you things like, just think positive, just work harder, just stay motivated and it'll happen. To just decide to change your life and then it will change. I've even said this before, and I do believe that those things can be helpful, but I need you to hear this. If it were that simple, you would have already done it. Am I right? Everyone would be there. Everyone would do it, right? It's always easier said than done. But honestly, this isn't just about behavior. This isn't just thinking and then it comes. This is about your internal program. And your program was not created today. It wasn't created when you were 25 or even when you were 20. It was created when you were 5 years old, when you were 8, when you were 10. And this is where it gets personal for me because I grew up in poverty. So I don't just understand this concept, I've lived it and I'm still navigating it. I've watched what happens when money comes into a family that doesn't have the internal capacity to actually hold the money, to know what to do with it, to spend it in healthy and wise ways. I've watched people get opportunities and just like that, lose them. I've watched money come in and disappear just as fast as it was received. And I'm even guilty of doing this myself. I've watched myself try to build something different, but still operate from the same internal script and messages that I was programmed with as a child, which does not work, doesn't work for me, and it does not work for you. So I've seen it so clearly, and that's not just with money, but with relationships as well, with attachment, with what we believe we deserve because we were programmed to believe what we deserved. And that programming happened to us in childhood, not in adulthood. So that programming didn't happen with the adult perspective and logic. It was programmed with the childhood perspective and logic and rationale, which let me tell you, our childhood intellect and interpretation of things is vastly different than the adulthood one that we have now. I mean, how could it not be? Our brains are not even developed until we become adults. We do not have the mental capacity to hold the same logic and meaning. As a child, we did not have that capacity to think like an adult, to rationalize like an adult, to make meaning like an adult. We were a child. We only had those childlike intellect. So this is bigger than finances and attachment. This is really about identity. So let me ground you in this, something real for a minute. There are statistics that shock people every time I share them. Did you know about 70% of lottery winners in the US end up broke within the first few years? Just pause and just think about that. They get millions of dollars and an opportunity to have no debt. They get every advantage with these millions and still they end up right back where they started. And I think the lottery is just a whole rigged kind of system that preys on the poor, but that's a whole nother rant for a whole nother day. I'm not going to go there. But anyways, the question still becomes, especially when looking at a statistic like this, was money ever the problem? Because looking at the stat, you think, no, how could it be? These people were poor and now they ended up with millions, and then they ended up right back where they started. So is it then maybe that they were programmed, or how they were programmed? Because your brain is not just reacting to the reality. It's actually filtering the reality. Because your conscious mind, which is a part of you that sets goals and says, this is my year, it processes about 40 kind of bits of information per second. But your subconscious mind, it processes millions of bits of information per second. And that means something really important. That means the life that you are experiencing right now is not just based on your effort. It's based on what your nervous system recognizes as normal, what it has been programmed to believe is normal. And this is where most people miss it, okay? Because they're just trying to change their life from the conscious level, the level that only processes the 40 bits of information per second. They're trying to decide differently. They're trying to think differently. And those things are important. But your body, it's still running on the same emotional patterns because the subconscious mind, which is processing the millions of bits per second, hasn't been programmed to believe or think or feel differently. And your body over your mind is always going to win. So let me explain this in a way that actually lands with you. Before the age 7, your brain is in what's called a theta state, which is basically, it means that you're in a state of hypnosis almost, okay? So you don't have a filter. You didn't question anything. You didn't say, is that belief or message or what you're saying, is that actually true in the way you're actually saying it, the way I'm interpreting it? No, what happened is you just observed everything that was said, that was done, and you observed it as truths, as absolutes. So imagine this. As a child, maybe you heard your parents say something like, money is just so hard to get, or rich people, they're so greedy, or you have to struggle in order to succeed in this life, son, or nothing in life comes easy. So when you heard that as a child, you didn't analyze it, you didn't challenge it, you just became it. It was your truth. It was facts. It was absolute to you because you didn't have the capacity to analyze or challenge it. So fast forward to now as an adult, after hearing those types of messages, they didn't just disappear and go away. You heard them, you programmed them. Because of those messages that you received, now things that come as ease to you feels uncomfortable because you were told nothing comes easy. So what do? As an adult? You sabotage opportunities because if something's easy, it's no good. So you sabotage it. You overwork. You can't hold on to money. It's because your nervous system, it doesn't recognize ease as safe. And this is where I want to gently challenge you, and not in a harsh way, but in an honest way. Some of you are not stuck because you're lazy. You're not stuck because you're not capable. You're stuck because your nervous system is protecting a familiar identity, one that was encoded in you as a child. And familiar does not mean healthy. Familiar just means that it's what is known to you. And I see this all the time in relationships as well, not just with money, but in relationships as well. People say they want these secure and happy, healthy, loving type of relationships. But when they do get it, they feel bored, or they feel disconnected, or they feel like something is missing. So what do? They sabotage that relationship and they go run after something that's familiar. And why, you may ask? Well, it's because their system was wired for inconsistency, for anxiety, for chasing, for proving. So when something is actually safe to them, their body, it doesn't read it as a safe state. It reads it as, this is unfamiliar to me. And unfamiliar often feels wrong because it's unfamiliar. And this is why you can't just think your way into a new life, because your body is still responding to the old one. And I want you to understand that this is not just me making up these things. There's actual neuroscience behind this. When your body is in stress, your brain literally has less access to decision making. And your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that is responsible for clarity, for logic, for long-term thinking, it just goes offline in those moments. So when you're operating from fear, you're not just emotional, you're also neurologically limited in those moments of fear, which means that you can't build a regulated, abundant life from a dysregulated nervous system. So now the real question is, how do you actually change this? Not just understand it, not just talk about it, but actually make a difference and change it. And I'm going to give you 3 entry points to help make change, okay? And it's not going to be these little fluffy kind of unrealistic whatever kind of things. I'm going to give you 3 real entry points, okay? Real ones. So 1 is that you have to access the state where your brain is actually programmable. And this access happens in 2 windows every day. One window is right after you wake up, and the other one is right before you fall asleep. And during this time, your brain is more open, it's more suggestible, it's more receptive, it's more open to changing habits. And most people, what happens, and I've been guilty of this too, is that during those moments they scroll on their phones or they check their emails, they flood their system with all of these stress type of things instead of using the only time their brain is actually listening. So try using this time to reprogram your subconscious mind. And you can do this by intentionally setting intentions, saying affirmations, or doing visualizations during the 5 or 20 minutes immediately after waking up or just before falling asleep. Number 2, and I say this in almost every video because it's so important, is that you have to regulate your nervous system. And you don't just do this once, and you don't just do this when things are calm, but you have to do this consistently. Because when your body is in safety, you look differently, you respond differently, you feel differently, you choose differently. And nervous system regulation gets it to a point of safety. And I need you to hear this. Regulation is not a luxury. It's the foundation of your everything. It is so, so, so important. And then number 3 is that you have to feel the new identity. You don't just think it. And this is where most people get it wrong. They say the affirmations, they repeat the phrases, but their body, it does not believe it. And your subconscious doesn't listen to words. It listens to emotion. So if your body still feels unworthy, unsafe, and not enough, there is no amount of affirmations saying, I'm successful, I am worthy, I am enough, that is going to override that. And that's because your body is still saying, hey, buddy, no, you're not. So the work is not just thinking differently. It's becoming someone who can feel differently. And I want to bring this full circle. That person who always almost makes it, that person who loses money, that person who keeps repeating the same relationship patterns, it's not because they're broken. It's because they're running a program. But guess what? Programs can be changed, but they're not changed through pressure. They're not changed through shame. They're not changed through just try harder. It can be changed through awareness, through regulation, through rewiring. And this is exactly the work that we do here. It's not surface level stuff. It's just not just think it and then it happens. It's not like, let's just prove it by working harder and think harder. No, it's not just information. It's transformation. So if this hit you, I want you to sit with one question. What feels normal to my nervous system that I am ready to outgrow and to reprogram and to let go of? Because your life will not change when you want more. If it would, my life would have been changing. I've wanted more for a long time for myself. I'm sure you have too. It's not going to change from just wanting more. It will change when your system can hold more. And that right there, that is the real work. So comment below on that question. Share with us your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video.